In this lesson, we will explore the difference between forced and voluntary migration, two main categories geographers use to describe why people move. Forced migration happens when people are made to move against their will. There are four major forms of forced migration mentioned in the AP Human Geography curriculum: slavery, refugees, internally displaced persons, and asylum seekers. Let's look at each one in order. Slavery is one of the oldest and most extreme forms of forced migration. People are taken by force and made to work without pay, often in terrible conditions. One of the most well-known examples is the Atlantic slave trade, where millions of Africans were kidnapped and transported to the Americas to work on plantations. Slavery still exists today in illegal forms, including human trafficking and forced labor. Refugees are people who flee their home country because of war, violence, persecution, or disaster. They cross international borders in search of safety. Refugees often lose everything and face long waits in camps or difficult conditions in host countries. International law offers refugees some protection, but many still struggle to find long-term security. Internally displaced persons are similar to refugees, but they have not crossed a border. Instead, they are forced to move within their own country. For example, a family may flee a war-torn city and relocate to a safer region nearby. Internally displaced persons often face the same challenges as refugees, but may receive less international help. Asylum seekers are people who flee their country and apply for legal protection in another country. They must prove that they are in danger and qualify for refugee status. While their application is being reviewed, they may face uncertainty and limited rights. If accepted, they become refugees. If denied, they may be sent back or must find another place to live. Now let's look at voluntary migration. This occurs when people make a personal choice to move, rather than being pushed out of their homeland, which was the case with forced migration. There are 7 types of voluntary migration that geographers study: transnational, transhumance, internal, chain, steppe, guest worker, and rural to urban migration. Let's look at each one in turn. Transnational migration is when people move to a new country but keep strong connections to their home country. For example, someone might live and work in one country while sending money back to family in another. They may visit often or even plan to return home someday. Transnational migrants often have strong ties in more than one place. Transhumance is a seasonal form of migration, usually connected to livestock and farming. Herders move their animals between pastures depending on the season, up into the mountains in summer and down into the valleys in winter. This form of migration is common in rural or traditional societies and is based on environmental conditions. Internal migration happens when people move within the same country. This can include moving from one state or province to another, or even just from one city to another nearby. Internal migration is usually easier than crossing borders, since it doesn't involve immigration laws or international travel. Chain migration occurs when people move to a place where others from their community or family have already settled. For example, a man might move to a new city, then later help his spouse, siblings, or neighbors move there too. This creates a chain of migration that connects people across space and helps new arrivals adjust more easily. Steppe migration is when people move in stages instead of all at once. As discussed in Lesson 2.8, a person might first move from a village to a small town, then to a larger city, and eventually to another country. Each step brings them closer to their final destination. This often occurs if someone can't afford to make the big move all at once. Guest worker migration involves people who move temporarily to another country for work. These migrants are often recruited to fill jobs in industries like construction, farming, or domestic work. They may not be allowed to stay permanently or bring family members. Many countries depend on guest workers to support their economies. Rural to urban migration is the movement from the countryside to cities. This is one of the most common forms of migration today, especially in developing countries. People move to cities for jobs, education, and better living conditions. As a result, many cities are growing quickly, and governments must plan for more housing, services, and transportation. Okay, now I want to give you 2 things to help prep you for the exam. First is a checklist that goes over everything you need to know for AP Human Geography really fast. Read through it and highlight anything you don't know yet for further study. Second, I'll send you some free response practice questions so you can get some exam-style practice. You can grab both from the link in the description. This video has been a snippet from my full 5-hour course review that'll get you exam ready. Click the video on the screen to watch the whole thing.